right, welcome to Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. I am Will Power, waiting on Javi the commish. He had some technical difficulties with his laptop, but he will be with us shortly. So, first, I would like to bring up some injury reports. So, Dodgers starting pitcher Walker Buehler could make his 2023 debut in the coming week. So now is the time to stash. We can go into Walker Buehler a little bit more later on. Check if Javi is available yet, and he is not. Next, we have Pirates shortstop O'Neal Cruz has been cleared to start running after he suffered a pretty horrific ankle injury on an awkward slide at home plate back on April 9th. So just keep an eye on him. He should be back hopefully before fantasy playoffs start. Orioles center fielder Cedric Mullins has been reinstated from the IL today. He's been on the IL since July 19th. So hopefully you guys got him off the IL and back in your lineups starting today. Arizona starting pitcher Merrill Kelly battling leg cramps. Kelly was taken out of Wednesday's game against the Dodgers due to a right leg cramp. Kelly has already missed a significant amount of time with a blood clot in the same leg, but it seems as though his condition isn't nearly as severe this time around. So keep an eye on Kelly's status this weekend, but he should be fine to make his next scheduled start on Monday against Colorado. And next up, we have Red Sox ace Chris Sale made his return today versus Detroit. Currently 76% rostered. Should we be adding Chris Sale where available? I think Chris Sale is one of the most skilled pitchers in baseball, in Major League Baseball right now. And when he's on, he's on. He has a great fastball. That slider is just amazing. It closed out the World Series in 2018 for the Red Sox, which won the World Series for them, striking out Manny Machado on his amazing slider. And that's a left-handed pitcher against a right-handed bat, coming inside like that. So, yes, Chris Sale is definitely worth rostering, in my opinion. The problem with Chris Sale is he's just always injured. He kind of reminds me of like Steven Strasburg. If he does make it to the opening day roster, you really don't know how long it's going to be. But when he's healthy, he should be considered one of maybe a top 15 SP in the league. It might take him a few starts to really get dialed in, but that's not even the issue. The issue is just this guy just can't stay healthy. August 2019, he had a left elbow inflammation. On September 1st, 2019, he was transferred to the 60-day IL, ended up getting Tommy John surgery. In August of 2021, he actually missed the whole 2020 season because of Tommy John. August 2021, he returned from Tommy John surgery. And later on in that season, he got injured again. Looks like it was a shoulder. And then the preseason in 2022, he had a rib stress fracture, so that delayed him a little bit more. In August of 2022, he had wrist surgery, and in June of 2023, this year, he had a stress reaction in his left shoulder. So this guy is just kind of always banged up. He hasn't had a healthy season since 2018, but like I said, when he is on your roster, when he is healthy, he is one of the greatest pitchers in this generation. Javier Velasquez is in the chat and he said almost done. So it looks like he is on his phone watching this as we speak, and he should be with us shortly. Let's see. I really want to wait until he gets back to talk about, witnessing history this past week. Let's see. So let's keep it going with the news. Dodgers ace Clayton Kershaw returned to action this past Thursday versus Colorado, going 5 innings, allowed 3 hits, 1 earned run, a solo home run from, I'm not really sure how to say his name, Eliuris Montero, and striking out 4. So he was a little bit upset with Dave Roberts not letting him go a little bit longer, but this is his first outing since coming back from the IL. So I can understand where both guys are coming from. Kershaw is a competitor. He wants to be out there as long as his shoulder will, keep on throwing. elite pitches. And Dave Roberts is more thinking about longevity. He's thinking about playoffs. He just wants Clayton Kershaw to stay healthy. So I understand both sides. I'm leaning towards more with Dave Roberts on this one, though. You know, a guy that just constantly gets hurt every single season. You want him to stay healthy whenever he can. So limit the innings now. That way, in the playoffs, when the playoffs actually come, you know, hopefully he won't be fatigued and he'll look like the Dodgers ace again. Hopefully, you know, but we'll see. All right. Chicago White Sox closer Liam Hendricks will miss the rest of the 2023 season and majority of 2024 as he has had Tommy John surgery this past Wednesday. Really tough luck for Liam Hendricks. You know, he was battling cancer, came back. Looks like we got Javi back. Hey, what's up, buddy?
Yo, what's going on?
Chilling, man, chilling. There's a couple segments I didn't want to start yet. I wanted to wait until you were on, but currently I am talking about Chicago White Sox closer Liam Hendricks. I'll just repeat what I just said because you know you didn't get to hear this, but I'm sure you already know he will miss the rest of the 2023 season and majority of 2024 as he had Tommy John surgery this past Wednesday. Um, so closer replacements, anyone that had Liam Hendricks that was holding on to him, you know, during the time that he was out during 2023. You know, it's hard to find closers out there. But do you have anyone that you want to talk about?
Um, yeah, when when it comes to fantasy and closers, I'm not a big unless they got like SPRP eligibility. Um, so I
Because of
was
the
kind of
points
looking
league.
over a couple of guys, and yeah, yeah. Um, so I was just kind of like doing some research, looking at a couple of guys, and one guy that kind of stood out to me was Matt Brash from Seattle. He's owned in 23% in Yahoo. And it's crazy. He's 8-3, right? This guy would be great for like a categories league because I guess he's got a lot of holds. He strikes out a lot of guys, and he's picked up 8 wins, man, as a relief, which is I don't want to say it's unheard of, but it's kind of rare, you know. Um, and he has 3 wins, and I think it was like the last week he's had about 3 wins and one save since Sewald got traded to the Diamondbacks. He
Hmm.
strikes out a lot of guys, 83 strikeouts. His ERA is a little over 3. Um, his whip is a little up there at 1.349, but otherwise he's been pretty reliable as far as like statistics go and what I've seen. And he's available everywhere, man. So I mean, this whole SPRP, like we've been talking about book relievers type guys and stuff like that. Like that's kind of the thing that's going on right now. So if he's available, I that's the one guy that kind of stood out to me, you know.
Yeah, I'm looking at his splits right now, and it looks like he hasn't pitched in the first, second, or third inning this season so far. He has 5 appearances in the fourth, 4 appearances in the fifth, 15 appearances in the sixth, 25 appearances in the seventh, 11 appearances in the eighth, 5 appearances in the ninth, and 2 appearances in extra innings. So it looks like he's more of like a sixth or seventh
Like
inning type of
everywhere.
guy, which is why he has more
Yeah.
wins than holds or saves. So it makes sense. Categories league or points league, I feel like this type of pitcher can be valuable in either one of them. He's either going to help your ratios, to try to get your ERA and the whip you mentioned is like a 1.3 something. That's not too bad. There, I believe like the league average is like about a
Mhm.
1.27 or something like that. So he might be just a little bit above average. So that's not too bad. But yeah, I like it. I can dig that. Categories or
Yeah.
points. If there's not really
Yeah.
much out there, if you're in a deeper league, in a points league, I wouldn't mind, trying to get Matt Brash. He has SP and RP eligibility, I believe, in Yahoo, so you can slot him in your SP or RP slot, either one of those. Let's see. I have Kyle Finnegan from the Washington Nationals in the second game of the Phillies and Nationals doubleheader. Finnegan recorded his 18th save, the fifth in the last 2 weeks. He's currently rostered in 63% of leagues. A 2.70 ERA, a 1.12 WHIP, 882 K per nine. He plays on a crappy team. He's on the Nationals. They're probably not going to get too many wins, in the rest of the season. But I feel like he's a pretty decent chance for save opportunities if you are really hurting for saves. Another guy that I'm looking at in a better, they have better offense, but not necessarily the pitching. Adbert Alzolay from the Cubs. On August 8th, he pitched a scoreless ninth inning for his 15th save, fourth in the last 2 weeks. Currently rostered in 71% of leagues. So you might have missed your chance on Adbert Alzolay because his roster percentage is so high right now. It's probably going to be too late in any 12-team leagues or higher. But if you're in a shallow league, maybe a 10-team or a points league, if you really need that RP spot and he's available, a 2.49 ERA, a 9.47 WHIP, 9.8 K per nine. So those are my two options that I have for the closer spots at the RP spot. Out of those two or three, the one that you mentioned also, I think I'm leaning more towards Adbert Alzolay. I think because the Cubs are in a weaker division in the National League Central, it's a little bit easier for him to have save opportunities, and the offenses that he's going to be facing, because he faces the Central more often than not, then he's going to have a little bit easier time to make those outs that he needs, versus Kyle Finnegan that plays in the National League East, and he has to play a lot of better lineups than Adbert Alzolay. So those are the RP suggestions that we have.
Yeah.
And the Blue Jays, unfortunately, I believe you have Bichette, right? Did I lose you, Gabby? Can you hear me?
Yeah. The audio keeps cutting off. So yeah, now I can hear
I
you.
wonder what's going on today. Hopefully the people listening or watching can hear it fine. I don't know. When you were in the chat, could you hear it? Like, did it sound okay?
Yeah. Right now it sounds
cool.
good.
All right, good. All right, so Blue Jays shortstop Bichette was added to the 15-day IL last weekend because of patellar tendinitis in his right knee. Blue Jays are optimistic that Bichette could be cleared to play shortly after he's eligible to be activated, which should be like early next week, I believe. Maybe mid next week. So shortstop replacements. I have 3 that I actually wanted to ask you about. Did you have any shortstop replacements in mind?
I have 2. You wanna go first, and then I'll give you my take?
No, go ahead.
Okay. It's been pretty good. This guy's kind of like all around. He's always been like pretty like middle of the field type of shortstop, but he always he's like never in the mix about like top tier shortstops or anybody like that. So he plays for Seattle. It's JP Crawford. He's only rostered in 18%. And I think this year, let's see, he's batting 266. Over the last week, his OPS is over 900. It's 970. And JP Crawford has always kind of been like in my radars whenever I'm needing a shortstop. Um, I don't know why I haven't picked him up because I'm the one that had Bichette. I'm the one that has Bichette in our fantasy league, right? So, but he, he's widely available. His statistics look pretty solid. 411 slugging, 790 OPS overall this season. Like I said, this past week, he's OPS is over 900, which is good. Um, the other guy that I was looking at was Ahmed Rosario from the Dodgers. Now, Ahmed Rosario, you know, he was touted as his prospect from the Mets. When he came out, he was highly, regarded as a top guy, this, and that. Didn't really pan out with the Mets. And then I believe he played for the Guardians. Am I right? Correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I believe that's right.
Yene? I think he played for the Guardians.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I feel like when the Dodgers signed Rosario, I was kind of happy about it. Simply because I feel like he's one of those players that he needed a change of scenery. And he's only played in 11 games, which is not a big sample size, but when he's been on the field, it's the little things that he's done that kind of stick out to me. Um, he is let me see. He's eligible as he's owned 62%. So he's a little up there, but it is below 70. He's eligible at second, shortstop, and outfield. So so far he's got let me see, 9 hits, 9 RBIs. He's batting 257, which is not great, but I think as he cements himself in the Dodgers lineups whenever they do put him in the lineup, I think he's going to be a great addition, especially down during this playoff push, that we're trying to separate ourselves from everybody else. And yeah, man, those are the two guys that I'm kind of looking at.
Yeah, it looks like Ahmed Rosario is playing basically every day. A lot of people thought it was going to be kind of a platoon, having him come over, kind of pairing him with like a Max Muncy, playing like up the middle, second base, or possibly even third. Um, so yeah, I get it. The only thing that I'll say about JP Crawford, unfortunately, he is on the IL right now with a concussion. The news actually just came out today, this morning.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's only concussion.
I think it was day to day when I checked.
Yeah, it was day to day earlier when I saw it in the morning also. So
Yeah.
it's only a concussion IL, so he should only be out for 7 days, retroactive to yesterday, the 10th. So he should be able to be reinstated by next Thursday, I believe. So yeah, Bichette actually might be back in lineups by then. So hopefully you won't need to worry about that by then. I do have a couple shortstops that I wanted to talk about. So Orlando Arcia from Atlanta, is currently 64% rostered. He's batting 390 with 2 home runs in the last 2 weeks. He's 300 on the season with 12 home runs. This man plays every day and is getting the job done, and kind of has been all season, showing with that 300 batting average. 64% is too low for RCI, in my opinion. I feel like he should be up closer to like a 70%. That takes care of basically all standard 12-team leagues. A couple things do worry me about Arcia, which is why I said his roster rate should be at 70 and not too much higher than that. His expected batting average is at a 264, and he hits in the bottom of the Braves order. His strikeout rate is under 20%. That's great. He doesn't have a lot of walks though to kind of like pair with his low strikeout rate. He puts the ball in play a lot, which it could hurt you. It could help you. Putting the ball in play, you get little bloop singles. Soft hit ground balls that end up turning into a hit if the speed is there, or putting the ball in play is always better than not putting the ball in play, aka a strikeout. So Orlando Arcia, I feel like he's a decent option, not just while Bichette is hurt, but possibly even the rest of the season. He's eligible at second base, shortstop, and outfield. So if there's any of those positions that you guys need, I prefer him more of like a middle infield spot, or in leagues that have 5 outfielders, or even as a utility player. But that would be my first shortstop replacement for Bo Bichette. My second, Luis Rengifo from the Angels, has second base, third base, shortstop, and outfield eligibility. 37% rostered. Last 2 weeks, he's hitting .314 with 2 home runs. For the whole season, he's leaves something to be desired. He's a .239 batting average, a .325 on base percentage, which is almost 100 points higher than his batting average. So plate discipline is pretty good. With 11 home runs, he hits at the top of the Angels lineup. But the downfall with him is that the Angels are just not very good offensively.
Yeah.
He bats in front of Ohtani, so that's going to help a lot. He's going to be able to score a decent amount of runs, and his strikeout rate is under 20%. Walk rate is great, so that's another one that is widely available. Again, only 37% rostered. And my third one, this guy kind of burst onto the scene. He's looking really, really great, and unfortunately, I didn't jump on it. I looked at him before when he started his little hot streak. Got called up in May. That would be Michael Garcia from the Kansas City Royals. He had a shortstop and third base eligibility. Again, 38% rostered. He's hitting .321 with 10 runs and 4 stolen bases in the last 2 weeks. Doesn't really have a lot of pop in his bat. But for the season, since his call-up in May, he's batting .281 with 38 runs scored, 4 home runs, and 18 stolen bases. So, but he lacks some power. He does have some speed. Hits at the top of the Royals lineup. Expected batting average is at a .274. That's great. It doesn't look like he's getting too much luck. He's just a good hitter. So his current numbers look pretty sustainable. Hits the ball hard. K rate is at it is pretty good, 20.7%. Based on ball rate is pretty low. He does put the ball in play a lot. Has a .343 BABIP. So it looks like he's getting a little bit lucky with some of his hits. His expected at .274 and his actual at .281. But I feel like he's a decent option also. So Orlando Arcia, Luis Rengifo, and Michael Garcia. Out of those 3, I think I would like to have Arcia the most, just because he hits in the best lineup out of these 3, and I feel like if he just keeps hitting, they're gonna have to move him up in the order. He's not going to be batting 7, 8, and 9 for very long.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point.
All right, and our last injury. Oh no, I'm sorry. We have a couple more actually. So Cleveland first base / outfielder Josh Naylor was placed on the IL last Friday with an oblique strain. Guardians expect Naylor to be out 3 to 6 weeks. Now this is a major hit. Unfortunately, I had Josh Naylor in a couple of my leagues, and it's the good thing is there's a lot of outfielders out there. The problem is which of the outfielders are you actually looking at to replace Josh Naylor? I have a couple in mind. Any players that you looked at, Javi?
Yeah. One guy kind of stood out to me. I don't know if he's rostered 67% in Yahoo, so he's up there. So he might be available or he might not be.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Joey Meneses from the Nationals. Yeah, man. This guy has been raking. I think I actually picked him up when we drafted, and then I just kind of, he was up and down at the beginning of the season. But man, like I was looking at his stats, 286. I'm sorry. In the last 7 games, he's batting 286, 3 home runs, 5 RBIs. For the season, he's got 11 home runs, 63 RBIs, slugging 418, OPS 744. Been so consistent, man. I mean, I don't know why he's not rostered in more on more teams. He does play on a crappy team, but it doesn't really matter at this point. You know, you're just trying to show out. You know, you're just trying to put your stats up and stuff like that. So um, he was really the only one that kind of stood out to me as far as first baseman, outfielders go. He does bat DH at times. So
As long as he's in the lineup, right?
but yeah, as long yeah. So he's kind of the one that kind of popped up to me. Like I'm actually thinking about picking him up, you know. But
Now, if I get there first, I'll grab my
yeah,
phone real quick.
yeah. But I mean, if he's available, dude, I would scoop him up like with the quickness.
Yeah, and it looks like a lot of other people agree with you too, because you mentioned that 67% roster, so he is not widely available. He is still pretty available in a lot of leagues, but anything that's deeper than 12 teams and maybe like with 5 outfielder spots, it's going to be hard to find Joey Meneses on the waiver wire. So you said that's the only one you had?
Yeah.
So I actually had him on my list also. There's a couple names that I have a little bit ahead of him. The first guy I want to talk about is Nolan Jones from Colorado. Plays first base and outfield. He's 28% rostered, hitting 300 with 2 home runs and a stolen base in the last 2 weeks. 267 with 11 home runs and 7 stolen bases since his call up in May. One of the things that we always look for, and why Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story were so valuable a few years ago, is that they played in Coors. Nolan Jones plays in Coors half of his games. He has an above average hard hit rate, 91.2 average exit velocity. In Coors, that is so valuable. The launch angle's good. He strikes out a lot, which is an issue in points leagues, but he makes up for it with a pretty decent base on ball rate to go with it. So Nolan Jones is at the top of my list. I feel like out of all these players that I'm going to mention, he would be the one that I want to roster the most, especially if it's just going to be for a short time. The next guy I want to talk about is another Red sensation, Christian Encarnacion Strand, and I have him in one of my leagues. I almost traded for him in the points league, but then I didn't because his strikeout rate was a little bit elevated at the moment. He's actually brought it down. Strikeout rate is down to 26.6%. It was above 30 the last time I checked. So he's hitting 289 with 2 home runs in the last 2 weeks, a 270 batting average with 3 home runs since his July call-up. Hits in the mid to bottom of the half of the Reds lineup, but he has some big boy power, man. Average exit velocity is at 91 miles per hour. Launch angle is great for hitting bombs. Expected batting average is at a 284, so it's right in line with his actual stats. The K rate at a 26.6. So I really like Christian Encarnacion Strand, and if he was available, I'd probably be picking him up as well. The hard part is, our points league that we have, it's a 10-team league, so there's a lot of players like this that just kind of have to stay in free agency because everyone just has stacked lineups. The third guy I was going to talk about was Joey Meneses, which you already covered, and then the last one, who only has outfield eligibility, is James Outman from the Los Angeles Dodgers. So he is 62% rostered. He is on fire right now. Not too much power in the last couple weeks since his hot streak, but the power will come. Hitting 301 with 1 home run and 3 stolen bases in the last 2 weeks, 255 with 13 home runs and 14 stolen bases on the season. His expected batting average, it's a little bit low. Unfortunately, it's about a 240. But he has
that's what you would expect.
A lot of home runs.
I can see that.
Yeah, he does strike out a lot, and he puts the ball in play. A lot of times it's on the ground, or a lot of times it's pop up. So, but I feel like that's just the rookie, shaking off like those
working through the kinks and all that stuff,
the jitters. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like eventually he's going to be considered a pretty valuable.
I like Outman. I like Outman a lot.
Yeah, his defense keeps him in the games. They're never going to take him out of the lineup. He is a replacement for Cody Bellinger that recently left the Dodgers. So still has that Gold Glove caliber type of player playing center field, and he hits the ball pretty hard. I don't know why he doesn't have more home runs maybe in the last couple weeks, but I don't know. We'll see. Average exit velocity for him is 88.1. I think he can hit the ball a little bit harder than that. Maybe he's just trying to work on his contact for the moment. 31.7% K rate and 11.7 walk rate. So not too bad. Another outfielder that just got hurt was Bryce Harper. He exited Thursday's game with back spasms and will likely not play through the weekend. It is still to be determined if he will hit the IL. So in addition to Josh Naylor, the other outfielders that we gave you, Josh Outman, Joey Meneses, and Nolan Jones, those are pretty decent replacements for either one of those.
It's not bad, man.
What was that? You were cutting out. Javi, you there?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'm there. I'm here.
All right. Trevor Story made his 2023 debut this past Tuesday. In his first 3 games, Trevor Story has 1 hit in 11 at-bats, 7 strikeouts, and 1 walk. So it looks like he has some rust that he needs to shake off. But, in the Boston lineup, there's no one else that's like chomping at the bit to try to take his place at the shortstop spot.
Right.
So I think he's pretty locked in at the shortstop spot in Boston. I think he hasn't played in a really long time. Had Tommy John surgery, and he stayed in the minors for a long time also. Even when he was like ready to make his rehab assignments, like usually like when you come back from an injury, it's like 3 or 4 rehab games and then you're back. But Trevor Story was in the minors rehabbing for almost 3 weeks.
Yeah.
He actually went all the way till the maximum that they actually let players stay in the minors, for rehab games. So that was a little worrisome right there. But I don't know. Maybe he just felt he needed to take some more hacks.
I agree. Yeah, I think they just got to let him work through all the kinks and stuff. But I don't know how long that's going to take. Being out as long as he has. So that whole thing with Bryce Harper kind of sucks. Especially the way the Phillies are playing. You don't want that to happen to your team right now.
So I see Tony in the chat. He's saying that it's hard to hear and maybe the internet isn't working so good. So we did have some difficulties before. I thought that I had fixed it, but maybe I didn't. I don't know.
Right now you sound good.
Let's see. I'm going to turn up my microphone volume a little bit. I put it up to 150 instead of 100. So if you
there we go.
If you're listening, let me know, man. Let me know if it sounds better. Oh, it says you're clear now. All right. Well, we just wasted only 32 minutes of our show with a bad microphone, but whatever. We'll make it work, right?
Got it, homie.
All right. Thanks, Tony, for the heads up. We appreciate that. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about, that's basically all the injuries that I wanted to talk about. The next thing I want to talk about is our boy. Where's he at? Let me find this picture real quick. There we go. Trea Turner. Trea Turner drafted number 1 overall in most fantasy leagues this season. In 2022, he batted .308 with an .851 OPS, 18 home runs, 64 runs scored, and 22 stolen bases through August 10th, which was yesterday. Now, through year to date, basically, that was 2022 stats up to August 10th. 2023 this year through 8/10. His batting average is about 60 points lower. His OPS is about 200 points lower. He has 6 less home runs, same runs, and same stolen bases. At this point last year, but in the last 7 days, he's batting .370. Has an 1134 OPS with 2 home runs, 4 runs, and 1 stolen base. Now, extremely small sample size. It's only the last 7 days, but this is the type of guy that he's like a career like .312 hitter. He always has good production with home runs and stolen bases. Usually he'll end the season with about 20 to 25 home runs and closer to like 30 to 40 stolen bases. There was even one year when he said that he was going to try to hit 60 stolen bases, and he actually got injured that year, so it wasn't able to happen for him that year. But he's going to have a long time in Philadelphia to try to make that happen. And I know Philadelphia is one of those teams that does like to run. So
Yeah.
if
They
he
do.
can if he can really find his stride and maintain, the type of batting average that he's had in the past, he'll get bumped up to the top of the order. He's batting 7, 8, or 9 right now for the Phillies because he's been so bad.
Mhm.
But if he can get that batting average up, let's get it up to like 270 before the season ends, and then he'll probably be seeing a lot more at bats in the leadoff spot.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. At work, there's a lot of Philly fans, and they always ask me like, "Yo, I thought you said that this guy was good and blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Dude, just give it time. Give it time. New team, new ballpark. We can't always make that excuse. I understand that, but sometimes it takes a player of his caliber to adjust, to his new teammates, you know, uh, the coach and all this stuff. And I feel like if the Phillies are really gonna make a push to get into the playoffs, they need this guy to turn it on right now. Like this is the time. This is the moment for him to show, Philly fans why they got him on their team. And it, like you said, small sample size, but it it's something to look forward to. Hopefully, right now that the Phillies are in the playoff mix. So yeah, man, I'm happy for Turner. I hope he could turn it around because even though he plays for the Phillies, he was a Dodger. And we saw what he did for us. So well, let's see what he can do in the next couple of weeks. Let's see if he can keeps it going.
Yeah, it was really surprising for myself. I saw Trey Turner come from Washington to play
Hmm.
for the Dodgers, be a rental over there, and he stayed for a year and a half, until his contract ran out, and he was great. He was still batting over 300, a lot of stolen bases, a lot of runs scored, excellent base running. I did see a couple of defensive things that he was working through. He made a few errors playing for the Dodgers, but he's never been known for his glove. He's always been
Yeah.
kind of known just for his base running ability and his speed and his contact. You haven't really been able to see much contact from him this season up until just recently. But living in close to Philadelphia, I hear it from so many different people that what happened to Trey Turner. I bet you guys are
Yeah.
glad you didn't get him, in the offseason, sign him to a long year deal like we did. And dude, they were saying the same thing about Bryce Harper when Bryce Harper got signed by the Phillies. And in the beginning,
Hmm.
the first half of his first season, he wasn't playing like an MVP like he has been in the past.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of fans out there that they want everything right now. And
Yes.
it's just
Yes.
not in the cards like that, man. Like
Nah,
you
man.
have an adjustment period. Unfortunately for
Yes.
Trey Turner, his adjustment period took a lot longer than a lot of other players. But I was just telling people like, dude, just relax. He'll come around.
Yeah.
He's a career
Yeah.
312 hitter. That
So
hasn't
people
changed.
people I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out. I just it's funny that you say that. Like people expect for whatever career they had at whatever team that all of that is gonna carry over to the next team and it's gotta keep going. It's like, nah, dude, like he's making a total life change here. It's not just the baseball, it's just life in general. You're moving from literally all the way, in the West Coast down to the East Coast. That can take a toll on a player, believe it or not. So dude, as soon as you started talking about that, I'm like, oh my God, everybody at work tells me the same thing. Like, dude, what
Yeah.
happened to this guy? He's supposed to be
Yeah.
he's good. I'm like, dude, just wait. He'll show up.
Yeah. The thing with baseball compared to, basketball or football, where baseball is not just about skill. There's a lot more to it than just being able to play the sport. You know,
Right.
there's a mind game about baseball than that there isn't with basketball and football. You could be the greatest athlete alive and be amazing at football and basketball, but suck at baseball. You know,
Yes, I agree.
these guys that play baseball are amazing athletes, but they have that extra special something that a lot of people don't have. You know, they
Hmm.
say that being able to hit a fastball is one of the hardest things to do in sports. And I don't think it's one of the hardest things to do in sports. I think it is the hardest thing to do in sports. You ever go to the batting cages? They don't
Hmm.
have 100 miles an hour, you know, but just step into a batting cage that throws 70 miles an hour,
Yeah,
you know,
that's not easy.
which is nowhere near the velocity that major league pitchers are throwing at. Even their curveballs and changeups are
Yeah,
still over 80 miles an hour. So
yeah.
if you can hit a 70-mile-an-hour fastball out of a machine, you should feel pretty good about yourself because
Hell
it's not.
yeah.
But these guys are hitting a fastball coming over 100 miles an hour at them.
It's
And
all
some of these,
eye-hand
like,
coordination, bro.
yes, eye-hand coordination, and
Yeah.
you also have to have it in the back of your head that
Yep.
one of these balls could hit you and end
Yes,
your
sir.
career in an instant. So you
Yep.
have to be ready for anything. Your reflexes have to be on point all the
Yep.
time,
I
you know?
agree.
So
Yeah, yeah. It's not easy, man. I did that shit maybe a couple times, and I did not hit one ball, man, which is kind of sad. But
it's
you
hard.
know,
It's really
it, it's
hard.
it's very difficult, man. Like for you to know what's coming or to try to figure out what's coming, and the speed that it's coming at. It's not that shit's hard, man. Like you think about it, it's like it's like a fucking science to it. It's ridiculous, man. But yeah, man, I 100% agree with everything you just said right now, dude. It's not easy, man.
All right. So, big news that we got to talk about now is, talking about the Phillies. The Phillies made a splash at the trade deadline, and Mike Lorenzen, first time in his career, gets a no hitter. This is the second no hitter of the season. The first one was a perfect game thrown
Yep.
by Domingo Germán from the
Yep.
Yankees. But dude, Lorenzen, he was amazing.
Mhm.
4 walks. That's a little high.
It
To
is.
have a no hitter, like that's crazy. But you can't take it away from him. He earned his spot in history. Traded from Detroit to Philly on August 1st. It's
Mhm.
his second start in a Phillies uniform, his first home start, and
Yeah.
he wows the crowd, man. ERA sitting at a 3.58. His WHIP is at 110. Um, I, I mean, he looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Career low ground ball rate this season at 41.6%. Um, for his career, he's at a 48.7%, so it's about 7 points lower, 7% lower. Career high fly ball rate. So unfortunately for him, he's probably going to be giving up some home runs. Detroit's a lot
Mhm.
easier to pitch in than Philadelphia is, so beware the home run ball and career high barrel rate. So it looks like this one day that Mike Lorenzen was supposed to throw this no hitter, it actually happened.
Yeah.
But honestly, I still see him as a streamer. I don't think he's like a
Yep.
must-add option or anything like that. He's had a sub 2 ERA since July. April and June elevated his ERA by a large margin, posting a 7.07 in 3 starts in April, 5.30 and 6 starts in June. But he's sitting at a pretty decent ERA at 3.58. The rest of the months they've all lowered that ERA pretty significantly for him, and a 110 whip, that's not bad at all. Um,
Right.
you know, I trust him versus better lineups? I don't think so. This
I,
was versus the Nationals, and the Nationals don't really have a great lineup. They actually have a bottom 5 lineup in the league.
Mm.
So, um, but if I have to if I have to give some praise, I'm also gonna, shed my worries a little bit, so that way I
Yeah.
don't out there isn't just trying to pick up.
Jumping on the bandwagon.
Yeah, and that's
Fucking Domingo German 2.0, bro.
yeah, exactly. Look how many people added Domingo
Yes.
Germán after that, and
Yep.
he ends up giving up like 7 runs in his next outing. Hopefully that doesn't happen to Lorenzen. I think he's a little bit better than Domingo Germán. I'd much rather have Domingo Germán than Lorenzen. I'm sorry. I'd rather have Lorenzen than Domingo Germán.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like it's a better lineup.
The lineup. Yep.
Better team, and unfortunately the Yankees just aren't doing much this season. Even with Aaron Judge back, they're winning more games now, but they might actually not even make the playoffs, dude, which is crazy because 16 teams make the playoffs this season, and the Yankees not being one of them.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
With that payroll. Yeah. Yo, yeah, dude. It's funny. As soon as this dude hit the no-hitter, right? I'm at work and a couple of the guys were like, "Hey, yo, I thought you said, this guy wasn't that good, because when they got him at the trade deadline, they asked me like, "What do you think about Lorenzen, like this guy that we picked up?" And I'm like, he's all right. I would say like back of the rotation type of guy, maybe a solid 4 maybe, but I wouldn't say like he's like great, and then he does this, right? And I'm like, do I look like a fool? Do I look like a fool? Right? So when it happened, they're like, "Oh, yo, like no hitter, blah blah blah. I thought you said he was garbage." I'm like, I never said he was garbage. I just said to me, he's not a 1, 2, maybe not even a 3 guy. He's like a back end of the rotation type of guy, and yeah, the walks were high, 5 Ks, that's cool against the Nationals. I do like him in the Phillies better than I liked him with the Tigers. Definitely an upgrade offensively. Um, but like you said, do I trust a solid, top 5 team? I really trust them there. Prove me wrong, right? Like that's what
Right.
we always say. Prove me wrong. But this is a great start for him. I feel like, him putting out a game like this might set the tone for him for the rest of the season and for this playoff push that the Phillies are trying to, they're making right now. So if this guy can get locked in, because Phillies, their pitching hasn't been that great this season at all. Nola, Wheeler, they've been solid, but not great like they should be. Suarez started off great. He kind of, I don't know how he's been doing lately, but he kind of faded away and then came back. And then, you got this guy, Lorenzen. So if he can maintain this kind of momentum, you know, dude, that's great. This is a good way to show Philly fans, this is what you guys got in Mike Lorenzen. Is he gonna keep it? I don't think so. I don't. I think he is a streamer. I agree with you on that. Put him against weaker lineups. I think he's gonna be great. Prove me wrong against bigger and better lineups, especially if they do make the playoffs or they're in that playoff push at the end of the season. That's when you really got to show out and show that it was worth the team going to get you, you know.
Yeah,
So
the 3.58 ERA, I think that's actually pretty close to what he should be at. Maybe a little
right.
bit higher, maybe like 3.70, 3.80. I see him as a high threes ERA guy with not a lot of strikeouts, and the WHIP is pretty low because he doesn't allow a lot of hits as it is, which is very weird. But he does allow a lot of walks. So
Gotcha.
that's what you got to kind of worry about with Mike Lorenzen is the walks. And when he does give up a hit, it's usually in the air. And a lot of times going from Detroit, which is one of the best pitchers ballparks, to Philadelphia, which is one of the best hitter ballparks, I think it's just going to hurt him. Looking at his previous stats when he was in Cincinnati, spent 7 years in Cincinnati as a reliever, And the ERA is kind of all over the place. 540,
Yeah.
288, 445, 311, 292, 428, all over the place. And then when you look at his first season as an actual starting pitcher with the Angels, he had 18 starts with a 424 ERA. And that's pretty inflated, but the Angel Stadium isn't really known as like a hitter's ballpark or a pitcher's ballpark. It's kind of like one of those like kind of neutral sites, which is why his ERA might be a little bit better than it is this year. Because in Detroit, which is one of the better pitchers ballparks, he has a 358 ERA. So that 358 ERA, it could just be a park factor, And now that he moved into Philadelphia, he's only had one start in that ballpark so far. So I'd be kind of worried that he might go back to like the Cincinnati tendencies where he's more in
Yeah.
like the 4 ERA, 428, 445, like that type of pitcher because of the ballpark. Those fly ball pitchers, they don't really do so good in places like Cincinnati and Coors and Philadelphia, unfortunately.
I agree, man. Like I said, prove me wrong.
I
Maybe
don't think it'll
this is
happen,
a good
but
thing. Maybe
there,
we always talk about yeah. Benefit of the doubt, right?
yeah, there's always
But
hope. There's
we
always
always talk about maybe a player needs to be on a different team, but this guy, he's kind of bounced around a little bit, so that excuse doesn't really go, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's dope for baseball, right? No hitter,
two no hitters in the same season.
after
That's pretty good.
yeah, yeah, which is cool, man. So, I mean, like you said earlier, don't take anything away from what he did. It was great. Um, but I want to see this against an Atlanta Braves team, a Houston
Mhm.
Astros team. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
I want you to show me this. Like he's been pretty consistent as far as like innings pitched. He's gone like 6, 7. He'll go pretty deep into games. So that's kind of a good thing. But like I said, show me against a top tier level, top 5 MLB team, and I'll shut up. I'll zip it up. Done deal.
So he's actually been looking pretty good in his last few starts. His last bad start was actually in Colorado. Um, Pitched 5 innings, allowed 7 hits, 5 earned runs. No home runs though. So that must have
Yeah.
been a lot of doubles and just moving runners over. Um, other than
He's
that, in the last
he's
couple
only
months,
allowed he's
pretty
only
good.
allowed like 5 runs in like the last 5 games that he's pitched, which is pretty good, man. And
Yeah.
that I think and that includes a couple starts with Detroit. But even then that's pretty solid. He went pretty deep into those games too. I think he went maybe like I think 6 innings, 7 innings.
Yeah, 6 innings against
Yeah,
Seattle, 6.2 against Seattle, 7
mhm,
against Kansas City, 5 against the Angels, 8 against the Marlins, and
yep.
9 against the Nationals. So,
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I was looking at that. I was like, all right, man. I mean, if it's pretty cool, man. Like pitchers don't go deep into games like that anymore. So, if you can have this guy do that and pitch maybe not like this, but pitch pretty consistently like this, then maybe they found that one other pitcher that can make a difference in that rotation.
all right, it is time to go over the two-star pitchers for next week. Javi, who you got?
All right. So I looked at the 2 starts and
It sucks this week.
oof. Yeah,
Next week
it's it's
is so bad.
it's it's pretty bad, man. But one dude that you've been like talking about, I think for like the past 2 shows, Kyle Hendricks. He's pitching against the White Sox and the Royals.
Good matchups.
So that is yo, pick that up. I think I just picked them up in our league. I was like, yo, I'm doing my research, and I'm like, oh, dude, the White Sox and the
Yeah.
Royals, man, I'll take
See,
some
that's
of
why
that,
I
and then
like
the
starting to
Cubs.
do this stuff like earlier in the week. So that way, like when I'm researching these players, I'm like, ooh, I wonder if he's
Yeah,
available.
yeah, yo, and then the Cubs have been pretty, dude. They've been a little hot
They've
right
been
now,
scoring
man. So
runs. They've been scoring a
yeah,
lot of
so
runs.
so I mean, being at home, both games, Hendricks is super solid right now, bro. Like I
Yeah,
would, I would totally hop on that.
one of the best things about Kyle Hendricks is he goes deep into games because he's a ground ball pitcher. He puts a
Mm-hmm.
lot of batted balls on the ground, which is great for his pitch count and it allows him to go deeper into games. Um, on the flip side, he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. So
Right.
those high strikeout numbers that those pitchers are going to get you 25 to 30 points in a start, it's just not going to happen for Kyle Hendricks. He's going to have,
Yeah.
maybe 4 strikeouts compared to another pitcher that'll have like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But since he goes deeper into games, you're going to get those extra points or, the better ratios, the better whip and ERA for categories leagues. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, you got another one?
Nah, bro. There were some other ones, man, but I don't know, man. I think there was this dude from the Tigers, Olsen, who's been pretty solid. Um, I don't remember who he pitches against, but I know it's like one crappy team and one good team. I just don't remember which ones they are. But the one that
So,
that stood out to me was like you've been talking about Hendricks, for the past couple of weeks. So I
yeah,
saw
I
the
thought he
I
was
saw
going
the
to get
lineups and
dealt.
I was like, ooh,
I thought he was going to get dealt before the before the deadline. But since the
yeah,
Cubs are really like in contention to win the division, they were like, nah, we gonna keep him.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so the first starting pitcher that I want to talk about has pretty decent matchups too. Now, the San Diego Padres have been doing really bad, and they have not been winning a lot of games. They're kind of on a slide. So I would actually start a lot of different starting pitchers against San Diego right now, even just streamers. The first one that I want to talk about is currently 53% roster, which is very crazy to me because he is a highly touted prospect in the Orioles organization, and that's Grayson Rodriguez.
Mm,
So in July and August, they were great for Grayson Rodriguez, mid threes ERA in 28 innings. He's allowed 3 runs or less in his last 4 starts versus Houston, versus Toronto, versus the Yankees, and versus Tampa Bay. All tough matchups. Walks seem to be a small issue. He's handed out free passes at least twice in 13 of his 15 starts. So if he can get a little bit more control, that I just feel like he could be very legit. It looks like the strikeouts are there. Let's see, his K rate is 24.7%. Elite is like a 30%, so he's right there. Um, the ERA is terrible, which is why he's probably not, rostered in more leagues. It's at a 5.84, and his expected ERA is 5.07. But when you're
yeah,
looking at just the last 2 months in July and August, he's been making some major strides. And he's a rookie, man. You got to
yeah,
expect like some bumps along the journey. So
yeah. They had to send them down,
yeah,
like for a couple games.
which is expected. Not
Yeah,
every starting pitcher that is a top prospect comes out just like guns blazing. But
I think
good
I think I
matchups.
think he I think he's got it, man. I think he just, I've been pretty high on this guy, and I'm not gonna give up on him just yet. Um, I think he has it. I think he just has a couple things that he needs to work through. But as you know, once he came back from him being sent down to the minors, and he came back, he's been pretty decent. He's been decent, man. So I like those matchups, man. Yeah, give me some.
Yeah, he's only 23 years old. He has
Yeah,
a lot of room to grow. And at San Diego and at Oakland, great matchups for a pitcher that has been very consistent in his last like 7 starts. So I
yeah,
really like Grayson Rodriguez as my first pick. My second pick that I would like to recommend is, like I said, there's not really a lot, available for next week's 2 star pitchers, but I feel like I'm just going to go matchup heavy in this one. And I'm going to say Miles Michaelis. versus Oakland and versus the New York Mets. Both teams are struggling offensively a lot. ERAs at 4.20, expected ERAs at 4.87. But like I said, I'm just going strictly matchup based on this one, just so I could give two. I'd much rather have Grayson Rodriguez over Miles Michaelis, but both of them are you know owned in very little amount of leagues. So I'm currently looking up Miles Michaelis right now, and he is 47% rostered. So you got 53% for Grayson Rodriguez, and what did I say? 47% for Miles Michaelis. So both of them are widely available. Good matchups. If you have pitchers that are streamers that you can drop for any one of these three that we just mentioned, Kyle Hendricks, Miles Michaelis, and Grayson Rodriguez, all three are viable options. Hopefully you pick the right one, and he gets you a lot of points next week. So real quick, that's basically the end of our show, but I did want to go over two players that are going to be making their return from the IL hopefully very soon. Two names that I would definitely suggest stashing and put them on your IL right now. Walker Buehler is the first one. He's already started rehabbing, and he's faced live batters, and he is considered a top 15 pitcher when he's healthy, maybe even top 10. The next one that I want to talk about is John Means. John Means has had some crazy injuries in the past couple years. He had Tommy John surgery. He had a 6-week setback with the back strain. But I feel like having that time off, it's been 16 months since John Means had that Tommy John surgery. So he should be healed very nicely. He has a great fastball and changeup combo. It's complemented by a 77-mile-an-hour curveball. He's a mid-threes ERA type of guy. And actually, he hasn't pitched in the new Camden Yards yet since they moved the wall. So now that he actually has like an extra 20 feet or so that he didn't used to have, him being I believe he's a left-handed pitcher pitching to right-handed bats, he's actually going to benefit from that, because the home runs aren't going to be able to go over that wall anymore. Baltimore was known as like a hitter's ballpark, especially in left field. And now it's the complete opposite. It's actually the hardest ballpark to hit a home run for a righty batter. So John Means, hopefully he's on your radar. He's 30 years old, hasn't pitched in about a year and a half. So he should be.
Didn't he have a no-hitter before he got injured?
I think he did. Yeah, right? It was the year where we had like 8 no-hitters.
Oh, yep.
I think it was 2021.
He was one of them. Yep. And he was like, everybody wanted a piece of Means.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
he was even,
hopefully
he was even on the trade block. I believe it was like right before he got hurt. Actually, last year before he got hurt.
I hope he comes back and continues from where he left off, man. I mean, I know
think
it's not
so, man.
happen,
I think the momentum that the Orioles are carrying with them, I think it's going to resonate with him. He's a veteran, he's been around, and he's going to feel that energy, and he's going to come back, and he's going to pitch like he's actually like pitching for something. Back when he was with the Orioles 2 years ago, they were known as one of the bottom teams. They were not good. They were not good offensively. They were not good, pitching wise. And now they're actually the favorites to win the division. They're one of the favorites to make it to the playoffs and possibly even go to the World Series. They're talking about it's either going to be between the Orioles or the Astros. Orange against orange.
Those their prospects that are coming up and what they have in the minors, it's insane.
The Orioles have the best farm system right now.
It reminds me of the Rays a couple years ago when they had a bunch of dudes in there and they're just chomping at the bit to get into the majors. And some of these guys, they started off kind of slow, but I think, like the Reds, right? They're bringing up all these prospects. If you can keep that core of guys together and just build, oh man, that's gonna be sweet, dude.
Yeah, I really like the Reds and the future, and I really like the Orioles and their future too,
Yes,
man.
yes,
Two teams that were considered like bottom in their divisions, bottom in the league just a couple years ago, and now it's like the exact opposite of like the Royals back in like 2015.
yeah,
Amazing team, won the
yep,
World Series against the guard back then the Indians. They were down 1-3 in the World Series and ended up winning 3 in a row and ended
yep.
up winning the whole thing. And now it's like the Royals are nothing. They're
Baltimore fans have a lot. Baltimore ha Baltimore fans have a lot to look forward to, man. They're
yes,
gonna have a solid team,
definitely.
man.
Baltimore and Cincinnati, both of them have a lot to look forward to in the coming
Word,
years.
word.
All right, well, that concludes our show. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. If you're listening on Spotify, and please just take a moment to like this video and hit that subscribe or follow button. And we will be back next week. Thank you guys very much. I was Will Power for Real Talk Fantasy Baseball, and this was Javi the Commish. Thank you guys. See you next week.